Good morning. It's Monday, February 6th, and it is Politics with Pierre. It is Black History Month, and I'm so excited to speak to you. And we have a different format. I got my good friend Bashir Fatal on, and we're just going to have a good old conversation about political and election reform. You know, you hear from me all the time. I've been working in government politics for close to 10 years, worked on campaigns, worked for elected officials, ran for office. But it's good to hear a different perspective, right? Somebody who's a community resident, somebody who's from a different field from the marketing world. And we're just going to have this conversation about political and election reform and what's needed. So, Bashir, you could just tell them a little bit about yourself before I sort of start hammering you with questions.
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Babshil Fatal. I live in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and I currently work in the marketing field. I've been there for about like 5, close to 6 years now. I graduated with a degree in operation management back in Baruch back in 2018. But I started working as a marketing associate for a small financing company in Brooklyn for about 2 or 3 years. Then during the pandemic, I got laid off and I started working for a marketing agency right now, which is where I still am currently doing digital operations out in Fulton Street. And that's a little bit about my background.
Awesome, awesome. So before I throw the first question your way, so Aristotle said, "For if liberty and equality, as some persons suppose, are chiefly to be found in a democracy, they will be attained when all persons alike share in the government to the utmost." So when all persons share in this liberty and equality, then we can say we have a true democracy. So my question is, America claims to have the greatest democracy, right? Surpasses everybody else. Do you think that's true? Is that your experience?
No, we don't.
Tell me
We
why.
don't. Well, because let's be honest, it's great that we have a system where we could elect people to represent our views. But I feel like what gets in the way in American politics, in particular, is the fact that we have, other interest groups that are involved in the political process here. Yeah.
Hmm. Interest groups like what type of groups and how do they
Well,
wield influence?
like for, certain positions in politics, people who are like trying to run for positions like uh, Senate or House of Representatives or mayor, governor, president, vice president, all that. Um, you know, when they do their campaigns for those positions, obviously they are financially backed, not only by um, the average American people, donors, but also by certain interest groups like, certain corporations, certain lobbying groups, certain special political, special interest groups, all these sorts of groups who have like a lot of influence because they have a lot of funding that they could give over. So in a way, they influence the political process, you know.
Uh, so, I think my perspective is we have a representative democracy, right? We elect people to Congress, we elect people to Senate. We don't have a direct democracy, right? So these people are supposed to vote on our behalf, right? They're
Yes.
supposed to vote in our best interest, but many times they don't. And we end up losing to these special groups who have the money to
Mhm.
finance these campaigns. So we have a democracy, but it's not operating the way it should be because these interest groups or these small groups of people are the ones that get the attention of the elected officials, and so they end up making decisions that aren't in the best interest of the majority of the people, but they make decisions that are in the best interest of the small minority, decisions that help make the wealth, help the people in power maintain power, help the wealthy become even richer. And so it's a huge problem, which is why political and election reform is definitely needed. What do you think are some of the things that could change that? Do you think there's any way to change the influence that these special interest groups have on our political system?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't come from like a political background. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not really the most politically aware person out there, But to fix a system like that, that's that's a really tough ask because this is the way politics has been done in this country for a really, really long time. And basically, what you're trying to do is trying to find a way to fight those who have like more access to resources than you, so that we as the American people have a fair shot of getting our interests met. So it's, it's going to be kind of tough because you obviously you're going to need like some sort of reform, but to figure out how to go about that, I feel like it's an uphill battle, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how exactly we could be able to make changes about that. But for me, my personal view, I really feel like one of the biggest problems we have is we have like a political system that pretty much has like only two options for the American people. Now, I know there's other like political parties too, I know there's the Tea Party, there's the Green Party, there's the Libertarian parties, but none of them really have the type of mainstream status that our current conservative and liberal party, Republican and Democrat party has. So in a way, we're just limited to those two options. Me personally, I feel like if there was a way where we could like break that, where we could have other parties like involved, another, if we could have like maybe a system where we have like maybe four or five, political parties, like the way it is in like some countries in the world. I feel like it would force a lot of the parties like the current like Democrat and Republican Party. I think it will force them to like really fight and have to change and do something to really address the people's needs, because now there's real competition. So I feel like that's one avenue that we could pursue. You know, I don't know
Definitely.
what you think.
So to me, this is what reform looks like, right? First, you need term limits, right? I think it's crazy
Yeah,
that we don't have term limits for members of Congress and for members in the New York State Legislature, right? So without term limits, somebody could be serving there, they could be ineffective, and it's hard to get somebody else in the position. It's hard to get new minds in there. It's hard to get people who are more open-minded. Um, so you need term limits. The way the system should work is that people who have experienced life in different careers, either as teachers or as people in the healthcare field, they run for office and they spend dedicated time serving the community, and then they go back to their field, and then you get a new crop of people because it's supposed to be public service. So I think term limits is very important. Also, so we should have campaigns that are publicly financed across the country, right? So we have it, for New York City, it's being rolled out for New York State, but it should be across America where you have people that can find the funds to run for office, right? That way, you limit the power of these big corporations and you limit the power of these big wealthy groups. and then lower the contribution limits, right? It shouldn't just be a small set of people that are deciding an election. So to me, that's what reform looks like. If you want people, if you want our leaders to be more responsive to us, then these are the reforms that it takes. And to go back to what you said with parties, I don't think we have a true democracy, and I don't think people truly have freedom if you don't have a freedom of choice in terms of your
Yeah.
candidates, right? If you're just given two options, that's not choice, right? That's not choice, because what if both people don't represent your values? So we definitely should have more parties, and we should have minor parties within a party like the Working Families Party, that pushes, that pushes the agenda and pushes policy, and pushes what people want. So to me, that's to me the reform that's sort of needed, to take us the extra way. But as